What's up, squad? This is Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, I know it's still early in the presidential tenure of President Donald Trump's second term, but are we officially ready to throw this foreign policy into the trash can? I think that's a great question because it really seems like a cacophony of action right now, and I'm really not getting the gist of how this all goes together to make America stronger within the next 4 years than it currently is. I'll start off like this, right? I'll say what I think are some highlights of the foreign policy. I think it's great that President Trump really focuses in on hemispheric relations. Do I think he should have done it in a more positive manner? Of course. Greenland is a geostrategic problem for the United States. And the question is, do you entrust Denmark with the protection and the faithful protection, I mind you, of the North American Atlantic flank? And I think that's a very valid question. Now, Greenland, that's one situation. Same thing with Panama. But it's about 40%. Panama is basically a cheat code for the United States. 40% of American commerce goes through Panama Canal by sea. It's a highly efficient route between the eastern and west coast, as well as east coast transit to East Asia or west coast transit to the Atlantic, such as Western Europe. So the Panama Canal basically halves the Western Hemisphere, which allows great efficiencies. And the country that utilizes and benefit the most from this canal is justifiably the United States. Also, the United States has made the most serious contribution and sacrifice outside of the Panamanian people to ensure that this canal became into use. America pretty much put this project on their back, and in an effort of being a good neighbor, it was given back for use by the Panamanians. But as it has been made evident, the Panamanians are not Americans. Their interest is Panama's interest, first and foremost, and they've done some questionable dealings with the Chinese, who have quietly infiltrated many parts of Latin America. It's not a good or bad thing. It's only natural as China's footprint rises in the world, they'll seek to expand more within the Western Hemisphere. But strategically speaking, it's very vital interest. Just as South China Seas are vital to China and Asia, the Panama Canal is vital to the United States here. So I will say I understand the hemispheric defense. What I don't understand, right, is twofold. One, the berating or the misuse of allies, right? And the second is this nonsensical tariff war that's going on, which they're running ahead and moonwalking back from. I'll start with the allies. I recently did a video about Steve Bannon and how he calls Europe freeloaders, etc., etc. You can call it what you want. You can call it what you want, but the fundamentals are the same. Since World War II, as far as American security is concerned, the current status with the NATO partnership has been the underlying security framework for what you can say the Pax Americana. America probably has been one of the most aggressive actors in the world, yes, but they are probably the sole aggressive international actor in the world. This is a very different world before World War II, where international wars are happening on a daily. Countries are going to the max to try to destroy each other in a literal sense. So that came to a halt at the end of World War II. And you had the Cold War, but even then it became two actors, the Soviet Union and the United States, waging these covert and overt wars throughout the world. And then that culminated in the fall of communism. And then the United States was only one left at the beginning of the 1990s, late 1980s. But America was able to do what it has done since then and up to then because true American security is not at the coast of the Atlantic and Pacific in the Western Hemisphere. It is at the coast of the Atlantic in Europe and the Pacific in Asia. American security for the United States is on the shores of Europe and on the shores of the Korean Peninsula. United Kingdom, Japan, tomato, France, Germany, North Korea, tomato. When Americans are there, this is the early warning signal. And it has served America very well from a security point of view. Russia hasn't been acting outside of its hemisphere in any significant way since the fall of communism. Even during the communist reign, Russia, the Soviet Union was extremely reined in. And the reason why is because America had its allies, force multipliers. Not only that, but they converted would-be enemies into allies. Your Germanys, your Japans, your France, England. Like, these are all countries that America could have had conflict with, or did have conflict with in a serious degree, that are now allies, partners. Now, granted, it's going to take some sacrifice because America benefits greatly from this. But the sacrifice, what time has shown, is America has not fallen behind. It has actually developed more. America is at the forefront of technology. Now, we may not have gold-lined streets, of course, but who said that was the benchmark? The benchmark is, how can we raise the quality of life for the average person to the highest degree? That should be the benchmark. And then continue to build on that, which America has done exceptionally well. So, by Trump crapping on his allies, it has done something extremely bad, because now he's shrinking the United States influence. He's bringing the United States influence only to North America. That's going to create a gap. And when the Europeans get back in shape, if it's not too late for Americans to try to rebuild this relationship, but when the Europeans get back in shape, when they get that mindset right, because right now Europe has kind of been benign, and compared to what they've historically been. And the Europeans are like, you know what, it's okay, let's just sit and make money. America's going to be our security underwriter. And they were cool with that agreement because they started to build a society around that. Now you want to make them independent. Now, instead of raising merchants, a society of pigs looking to get fat off of commerce, now you're raising a pack of wolves. These are the next generation of Europeans are going to be highly centered around security. And Russia is going to be a biggest threat, as the United States is going to be a biggest threat. And now you just brought what would have been America's biggest enemy, Russia, closer, because who knows what country? Maybe it could be a reimagined France, or a rejuvenated Germany, or Spain. Like, you don't know what country will pop out, start building a relationship, start building the military infrastructure, starting making plans for nuclear advancement. You don't know what country you can create with the law of unintended consequences that I think Trump is going down. And if he's really starting to look like a real estate guy in the age of AI, I think, when it comes to foreign policy. And look at the tariffs. Absolutely senseless. Absolutely senseless. When America, and this is just how geopolitics work, right? The Europeans wanted to carve up China. America was probably the biggest proponent of an open China policy, right? They could have carved up China. That was a desire, and America was against that. And America being against that, the one China, now you got to deal with it. And the reason why this is a problem, because there is no competitor for China in East Asia. And I can understand China was a sick, ill version of itself during the 19th century. It was dealing with a lot of things. China had disregarded the world, and the world came back so big and strong. China was caught on its back foot. It caught China in its arrogance. And you had expanding Russia, and Russia was looking like this behemoth. So I can understand America's like, look, we don't want to make China too weak, because who knows what the Russians are going to do. Geopolitically, I think they were limited because of the scope, scale, size, and the depth of the Siberia. It was so little that could be done. But if you look around China, it's enclosed. It's pretty much East Asia, the eastern half of the country is populated highly, and it has this empty framework because there's no competitors. And as I say in geopolitics, like not having competitors around is a great boom. Germany was a great country, but it had a lot of competitors. So the moment it got too big, one of its competitors would come down on it. China didn't have this problem. And this is why you have a country, 1.2 billion people, 1.2, 1.3 billion people. And they own this area. They're bigger than all the surrounding countries combined in population. So they are the giant of their neighborhood. Now, America needs to deal with this. And I think China and America are highly complementary. I think the big bad wolf, of course, is India. I think India has the capacity and potential to be a way bigger threat to the United States than China ever could. And I think that same threat to America could possibly be a threat to China. India flanks all of China's vital access to Western markets. So I think there's a lot of alignment between China and the United States. So this tariff war in itself is just nonsensical. China has risen up, but that was inevitable. The Chinese people, even under the worst form of government there is, from an economic point of view, socialist, communist, Marxist point of view, they are still succeeding. But that goes so much deeper to the culture and capacity of Chinese people and their desire and perseverance to succeed than anything else, right? Everything else is just the dressing on a cake. The Chinese were going to rise up regardless of who their government was, their economic system. This has been a historic role for them in East Asia. So the fact that we're trying to talk to them like little kids or bemoan them and say, you're ripping us off, that's not the case. Americans are getting products, goods, and services at a better price, which allows them to allocate capital to other things which drive research and development. And America has benefited greatly. And we can't get mad because other countries were starting here and now they're up here. And the West is up here. And you can't get mad at that. Like, how do you, because you're not going to be able to stop them. So now when they come up, it's nothing but bitterness. Because all they can think about is how America tried to hold them down. And I think that just sets a bad precedent. Lee Kuan Yew said it best. Tell China you have a place at the table. And I don't know why is that a problem. This is the whole point. China is on the UN Security Council. China did partner with America to defeat the Japanese and the Axis power during World War II. So it really is a lot of opportunities for alliance with America and China. Because what China is doing is showing you, hey, the world is bigger than the United States. And I think Trump don't know that. And that's why I say I think I always talk about, he got this 19th century framework of strategy. But he has to adapt that to the fact that this ain't the 19th century anymore, bro. Like, the world has changed so much. Asia is back on its status. They see light at the end of the tunnel, and they will not be denied. And Asia has been the island of world history. It is the center, the demographic center of world history. So you can't dismiss the great kingdoms of India and empires. You can't dismiss Iran, the Persian. You can't dismiss Babylon, the Middle East, the Fertile Crescent, cradle of civilization. You can't dismiss the merchant empires of Southeast Asia or the power of the Middle Kingdom of China. You can't dismiss this forever. The West had a good come up, but every good day comes to an end. And even a broken clock may be right twice a day. And the West had an edge, but that edge is by no way immutable or inherent. It was well deserved, but competition is back on the block. And it's better to partner with this competition, as America has done with Europe, to secure its interests. And I see none of that in the current foreign policy. It's making America isolationist. Nobody wants that inflation. Nobody wants these jobs that are in Southeast Asia for the price they're paying. Nobody wants the price inflation in America. You're searching for a boogeyman when one doesn't even exist. I just got to watching some farmer cry, a Trump supporter, because now China's stopped buying soy from America and they're going to Brazil now. Guess what? America's not the only country in the world with resources. We just have a bounty of it that allows Americans to live a high quality of life. But America's success from an economic, commercial, cultural, and military point of view has always been about global engagement, right? High walls keep people out and it also keep people in. And this is fundamental. So we'll see how this culminates. But I just think all of these foreign policy decisions, they're really cultivated into a bad look. And as opposed to some type of a beautiful framework for a new age. I thought President Trump would come in with ideas that would allow America to flourish over the next 100 years as they had the last 100 years. But we're backtracking on tariffs. We're crapping on our allies. And I just don't see where this is going yet. So it's going to be interesting uh, to basically come back to some point, because and they had Russia on the ropes. That's the crazy part. People can say what they want about neocons, but neocons execute and they get shit done. And people want to talk about, well, maybe don't like the purpose, but they get things done. And you look at a situation where they had Russia on the ropes, and what's the first thing President Trump do? Tell Russia, relax, we're trying to end this for you. And now you conceding, you're betraying allies, not going to get any trust. The tariffs are a mess. I'm just not seeing where this story ends, because the logical outline of this is America is going to live in a more multipolar world with less friends and less access to markets. And America is just not that big. As what to say, Henry Kissinger always said Germany's too big for Europe, and too small for the world, or something like that. And the same thing for America. America is very big deal as far as the country's concerned. But as far as the world's concerned, it's still only 5% of the global population. So those are my thoughts. I love to hear your thoughts on the current administration's foreign policy. Maybe you're seeing something I'm not. I doubt it, but maybe you are. Make sure you comment below, like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.